It's that time of year again where we're planting our spring bulbs. I know tulips and daffodils aren't exactly tropical, and I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments if you actually grow them yourself in your tropical gardens. But for me, I really enjoy the fact that we get these beautiful splashes of colour coming up very early in spring. So I grow these bulbs in beds and also in pots. And it's specifically in pots that I want to talk about today because we're talking about lasagna planting. If you're not familiar with this term, it's a method for layering bulbs so that you can get the most out of a pot. On the bottom layer, you've got spring bulbs that will typically flower in May, such as late flowering tulips. And above that, you've got bulbs that will flower in April, such as daffodils. And then finally, on the top layer, you've got smaller bulbs that will typically flower in March, such as crocus. Now, I've selected my bulbs that should flower in March, April and May. And for this pot, I've decided to go for an orange and purple theme. So my crocuses I got from Balmer Gracie are Orange Monarch and Herald, which has this lovely deep purple colour under the petals. In my next layer, I'm going to try a Fritillaria, Purple Dynamite. I've not tried this in lasagna planting before, so we'll have to see how that goes. And I've paired it with an orange daffodil called Apricot Whirl. Both of these I've ordered from Garden Wildlife. And then finally, my tulips are Alexander Pushkin for the nice deep purple and Ballerina for the vibrant orange colour. Now in my pots, I'm going to be using a peat-free multi-purpose compost with added John Innes, but any multi-purpose compost will be fine. And I've got a couple of pots which I'm going to use to plant these bulbs into. So I'm going to start by putting a couple of inches of the multi-purpose compost at the bottom of my pot. I'm just making sure I break up any big lumps that are in there as well. And now I'm getting the bulbs that I'm putting in the bottom layer of my lasagna planting. These are the tulips. And you may prefer to mix these up a bit and plant randomly. However, I've paired mine one of each type, just to give me a little bit more control as I'm putting them into the pot, as I want to get at least an approximately even distribution between the two colours. Make sure you're planting your bulbs with the pointy bit going up because that's where the green shoot is going to come from and the roots will go down underneath. It's generally recommended that you leave spacing of a couple of inches between your bulbs, but don't worry too much, your bulbs can even be touching and they will still grow. And I personally prefer a fuller look in my pots of tulips. So once you've got your bulbs planted, it's time to add another layer of soil into your pot. This doesn't have to be very deep, just enough to make sure that you've really covered those bulbs and probably got about an extra inch on top. Don't worry about where you're going to place the next layer of bulbs because even if you plant them directly on top of the tulips, the emerging shoots will still find a way. And in my second layer, I've got my Fritillaria and my daffodils. In this case, I've only got one Fritillaria bulb, so I'm going to be placing that one in the centre, and I'm going to be placing the daffodils around the outside in a circle. Once again, the pointy part of the bulb points upwards, and the flat part of the bulb is where the roots will come from. This is a lot easier to see in the daffodils than it is in the Fritillaria. The Fritillaria bulb is a little bit flat on top, but you can see here that there are roots underneath, so they're going to go on the bottom. So now this completes the second layer of planting in my lasagna pot. My second pot doesn't have a Fritillaria in it because I actually changed my mind about how I was going to do this after I bought the bulbs. And so then it's time to put that final layer of compost on top of the bulbs. Again, I'm making sure the bulbs are mostly covered and they've got probably about an inch of soil above them. Don't worry that your pot's now getting quite full with soil because actually the crocuses don't need a lot of depth at all, which is why they go on the top layer. And once again, I'm going to divide my crocuses into two piles with 5 of each colour in each pile, just to make sure that I've got that even spread of colour in each pot. Of course, it's up to you if you want to go for a colour scheme. You might prefer to use all bulbs from one colour, or you might prefer to just mix it up a little bit and make it look a bit more naturally occurring, which is what I've tended to do in previous years. This is the first time I've really tried to put a colour scheme with my lasagna planting. And once again, with the crocus bulbs, you can see that the shoots are starting to grow out of the pointy part at the top. However, if you do plant a bulb upside down, then it's not the end of the world because the plant will still find its way to grow. Ideally, I probably should have bought a few more crocus bulbs, being as these are a little bit further spread apart than I'd have liked. However, they will be absolutely fine, and I've covered them now with a final layer of compost. And my 2 pots of lasagna planting are now ready, and I just leave these to grow ready for spring. If you're enjoying this content, then please do make sure you're subscribed to my channel. This is still a new channel, so every subscriber really does make a difference. You can also turn on notifications to make sure you don't miss any of my new videos. And please let me know what you think in the comments, because they really do help my channel to grow. You can also follow me on social media for links to my latest videos and my photo of the day, in which I usually share photos of flowers from my garden, along with their names if known. You can follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, or you can join my Facebook group to ask questions or share photos. And you can find all of my YouTube videos on Freya's Tropical Garden website, which I will also be expanding to provide advice pages as well as items for sale. Links to these pages are included in my description.